The Galactic Empire sets its gaze on Earth, reaches its breathtaking climax, as Admiral Morgan's fleet executes a daring ambush through Jupiter's hidden fortresses, crippling the massive Star Hunter's shields. Captain Rex, bloodied but defiant, orders an orbital strike, only to watch in disbelief as human fighters weave through energy beams to disable his main cannon, forcing both commanders to recognize neither can win through force alone. The star-speckled void of deep space stretched before Captain Rex as he stood on the gleaming command deck of the Imperial Dreadnought. Star Hunter. His tall, lean frame cast a long shadow across the polished floor, the sharp angles of his uniform catching the light from 1,000 control panels. The year was 3247 AD by Earth's calendar. Not that Rex particularly cared about the timekeeping systems of a backwater planet, soon to be another footnote in the Empire's long history of conquests. "Report!" he commanded, his voice cutting through the ambient hum of the massive warship. Lieutenant Kale stepped forward, datapad in hand. "Long-range scans confirm, sir. Planet designation E3589, locally known as Earth. Third planet from a G-type main sequence star. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, abundant surface water, multiple electromagnetic signatures consistent with a pre-hyperdrive civilization." Rex nodded, clasping his hands behind his back as he approached the holographic display dominating the center of the bridge. The Star Hunter was more than a ship. It was a floating city of weapons, the pride of the Imperial fleet. At nearly 20 kilometers long, it housed over 300,000 crew members, fighters, and ground troops, all under his command. "Show me," he ordered. The hologram flickered to life, displaying a blue-green orb wrapped in wispy white clouds. Data streams scrolled alongside the image. Atmospheric composition, oceanic coverage, tectonic activity, and, most importantly, population centers and rudimentary defensive capabilities. Rex's thin lips curved into what might generously be called a smile. Primitive, as expected. "They have achieved limited space travel. Captain," Kale added. "Orbital stations, a small lunar outpost, automated probes to neighboring planets. Nothing that could possibly challenge the Empire." Rex dismissed. "Prepare the standard first contact protocols. We will offer them the Emperor's mercy. Peaceful integration or demonstration strike. The usual procedure." "Yes, sir." As the bridge crew bustled to carry out his orders, Rex continued to study the rotating image of Earth. Another conquest. Another jewel for Emperor Maximus's crown. The thought should have filled him with pride, yet he felt only a vague sense of tedium. How many worlds had fallen before the might of the Empire? How many alien species now served as loyal subjects? The routine had become predictable. Little did he know that Earth would prove anything but predictable. Far below, on the planet's surface, in a facility buried deep beneath the North American continent, Admiral Kara Morgan stood before her own tactical display. Unlike the pristine Imperial Bridge, the command center of Earth's defense fleet hummed with controlled chaos, officers rushing between stations, technicians fine-tuning equipment, the air thick with tension and determination. Morgan was not a tall woman, but her presence filled the room. Steel-gray hair cropped short framed a face weathered by decades of service and hard decisions. Her eyes, sharp and alert, missed nothing as they scanned the emergency reports flooding her screens. "Status of the orbital defense grid," she demanded. "All stations at combat readiness, Admiral," her executive officer replied. "The lunar shipyards have gone dark as ordered. Solar Observation Platform Alpha reports an unidentified object decelerating at the edge of our system." Morgan's jaw tightened. "Time to intercept?" "At current velocity, approximately 6 hours." She nodded, then addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. For 30 years, we've prepared for this moment. The governments of Earth may not believe in alien threats, But everyone in this room knows the truth. We've recovered their probes. We've studied their technology. And now, they've come for us." A nervous murmur swept through the command center. The civilian leadership is still debating whether to reveal our existence to the public. Morgan continued, her voice hardening. They want to negotiate. They want to welcome our cosmic neighbors with open arms. She shook her head. We know better. The defense fleet remains Earth's first and last line of defense. To your stations. Prepare for battle. As her officers dispersed, Morgan turned back to the tactical display. The blinking red dot representing the approaching vessel seemed to mock her. Humanity had spent centuries fighting amongst themselves, drawing arbitrary lines on maps, squabbling over resources and ideologies. Now, those divisions seemed laughably insignificant. "Dr. Elena Cho to command," announced the intercom. Morgan tapped her console. "Go ahead, Doctor." "Admiral, the new modular fighters are ready for deployment," came the crisp voice of Earth's chief technologist. "All pilots have completed simulator training on the reverse-engineered propulsion systems and the shield technology. We've managed to replicate the basic principles from the captured probe, but power consumption remains problematic. Each suit will have approximately 20 minutes of protection at full strength." Morgan allowed herself a grim smile. 20 minutes might be enough. Prepare your teams. Doctor, this is what we've been working toward." As she closed the communication channel, Morgan's gaze returned to the ominous red dot. Whatever was coming, humanity would not go quietly into the night. In the cold vastness of space, the Star Hunter glided silently toward Earth, its massive engines barely registering on conventional sensors. Captain Rex had ordered a direct approach. No stealth, no subterfuge. The Empire did not hide. It announced its presence with overwhelming force. "We've entered the outer defense perimeter, sir," Lieutenant Kale reported. "Primitive satellites and observation platforms. No weapons detected." Rex nodded, standing before the massive viewport that offered a panoramic view of their approach. Earth grew larger in the distance, a jewel against the black canvas of space. "Open a channel to all Earth frequencies," he ordered. "Prepare the translation matrices." The communications officer worked quickly, then nodded. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all electromagnetic spectrums." Rex straightened his already impeccable uniform and stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice would carry to every radio, television, and communication device on the planet below. "People of Earth," he began, his tone measured and imperious. "I am Captain Rex of the Imperial Dreadnought, Star Hunter, representative of His Eternal Majesty, Emperor Maximus the Benevolent, ruler of the Galactic Empire spanning 1,000 star systems. We have observed your civilization and deemed it worthy of imperial attention." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. "The Empire offers you a simple choice. Accept our peaceful integration into the imperial sphere, surrendering all military assets and submitting to imperial governance, or face demonstration of our superior might. You have 1 standard hour to transmit your unconditional surrender. Resistance is not only futile, it is illogical." With a gesture, he closed the channel. The bridge fell silent, the crew awaiting the inevitable capitulation. It always came, sometimes immediately, sometimes after the demonstration strike reduced a major city to ash. But it always came. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, frowning at his console. "I am detecting multiple launches from the dark side of Earth's moon." Rex raised an eyebrow. "Their lunar outpost? Show me." The tactical display zoomed in, revealing dozens, no, hundreds, of small craft emerging from what had appeared to be barren lunar craters. They moved with surprising speed, forming attack formations that suggested military discipline far beyond what Imperial intelligence had reported. "Impossible," Lieutenant Kale murmured. "Our scouts indicated no significant space-based military presence." Rex's expression darkened. "It seems our intelligence was incomplete. Raise shields. Prepare point defense systems. Far below, in Earth's command center, Admiral Morgan watched as the first wave of fighters streaked toward the massive Imperial vessel. The Star Hunter dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, its sleek hull bristling with weapon emplacements. Yet her pilots showed no hesitation as they accelerated toward their target. Epsilon Squadron, execute attack pattern Hydra, she ordered. Draw their fire away from Gamma and Delta squadrons. On her display, the small blue dots representing Earth fighters split into precise formations, approaching the Imperial dreadnought from multiple vectors. Years of drills and simulations were being put to the ultimate test. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a global broadcast from the alien vessel. They're demanding our surrender." Morgan's expression hardened. "Ignore it. Continue the attack." The first shots of the battle flashed across the void, brilliant pulses of energy from the Star Hunter's point defense batteries, answered by the concentrated fire of Earth's fighters. To Morgan's grim satisfaction, the reverse-engineered weapons performed exactly as Dr. Cho had promised, their energy signatures confusing Imperial targeting systems. "We've scored hits on their outer shield layer," reported her tactical officer. "Minimal damage, but our weapons are penetrating further than they anticipated." Morgan nodded. "Continue harassment tactics. Keep them occupied while our main fleet assembles." The Star Hunter's bridge had erupted into controlled chaos as Imperial officers responded to the unexpected resistance. Captain Rex watched in growing disbelief as Earth fighters executed complex, evasive maneuvers, avoiding his ship's defensive fire with uncanny precision. "Their technology is far more advanced than reported," Lieutenant Cale said, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. "Those fighters are using modified Imperial shield harmonics." Rex's eyes narrowed. "How is that possible?" "Unknown, sir. But their attack patterns suggest they've studied our tactical doctrines as well." A thunderous impact shook the massive dreadnought, causing status alerts to flash across multiple consoles. "Damage report," Rex demanded. "Minor hull breach in Section 47, came the response. "Automated systems responding. Shield integrity at 96%. Rex's lips pressed into a thin line. "This is becoming tiresome. Target their largest population center. Prepare a demonstration strike." The weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, our targeting systems are experiencing unusual interference. The Earth fighters appear to be broadcasting conflicting sensor data." Another impact rocked the ship, more violent than the first. Rex's patience evaporated. "Enough. Launch fighter squadrons Alpha through Delta. I want those Earth vessels destroyed." Sleek Imperial fighters poured from the Star Hunter's launch bays, their engines flaring bright against the darkness of space. They moved with mechanical precision, executing textbook Imperial attack formations as they engaged the numerically superior but technically inferior Earth forces. Or so they thought. As the space battle intensified, cities across Earth went dark, not from Imperial bombardment, but by design. Massive evacuations had been underway since the moment the alien vessel was detected, moving civilians into hardened underground shelters built in secret over the past 3 decades. By the time Captain Rex ordered his demonstration strike, his intended targets had largely emptied, leaving behind only decoys and automated defense systems. In her command center, Admiral Morgan watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Imperial fighters were formidable, but Earth's pilots were fighting for their homes, their families, their very existence. What they lacked in technology, they made up for in ferocity and unorthodox tactics. Dr. Cho reports the next wave of fighters is ready for launch, her executive officer reported. The asteroid belt detachment is also moving into position. Morgan nodded. Execute Phase 2. Let's show our visitors what humanity is truly capable of. Across the solar system, hidden facilities sprang into action. Hollowed-out asteroids revealed concealed hangars. Abandoned mining stations transformed into weapon platforms. What had appeared to be a limited defense force was merely the tip of the spear. Earth's true military capabilities had been carefully concealed, distributed throughout the solar system in anticipation of this very day. Captain Rex could scarcely believe the reports flooding his command console. What should have been a routine conquest had devolved into a genuine battle, with Imperial casualties mounting at an alarming rate. How were they able to hide all this? He demanded, gesturing at the tactical display showing thousands of Earth vessels emerging from concealed positions throughout their system. Where did they acquire this technology? Lieutenant Kale looked up from his analysis. Sir, I believe they've been recovering our probes. The design signatures on their weapons indicate reverse-engineered Imperial technology, modified to work with their power systems. Rex's expression darkened. Contact Nova Imperia. Request reinforcements. Communications are experiencing interference. Captain, the comms officer reported. The humans appear to have hacked our encryption protocols. For the first time in his distinguished career, Captain Rex felt a flicker of genuine concern. This was no longer a simple conquest. It was becoming a legitimate military engagement against a foe far more resourceful than anticipated. Sir, Kale said quietly, should we consider a strategic withdrawal to reassess? Rex's head snapped around, his eyes blazing. The Empire does not retreat, Lieutenant, especially not from primitives. Prepare the main cannon. We will end this resistance in one strike. As the massive dreadnought's primary weapon began to charge, drawing power from its antimatter core, Earth's command center received the energy spike readings. They're preparing a major weapons discharge, the sensor officer reported, her voice tight with tension. Admiral Morgan's eyes narrowed. Location of the power buildup? Forward section, central axis. Energy readings are off the charts. Morgan activated her communication link. Dr. Cho, are the Saber Beam squadrons in position? Yes, Admiral, came the immediate response. All units report ready. Execute Sunbreaker protocol, now. Across the battlefield, a specialized group of Earth fighters broke formation, accelerating directly toward the Star Hunter's charging weapon. Each carried a single, experimental weapon, the culmination of Dr. Cho's research into Imperial energy systems. Captain Rex watched with disdain as the seemingly suicidal Earth vessels streaked toward his ship. They think to ram us. Pathetic. Intensify forward shields. Sir, the weapons officer called out. The Earth vessels are emitting unusual energy signatures. They appear to be... He never finished his sentence. The specialized Earth fighters fired in perfect synchronization, their saber beams, concentrated streams of particles designed to disrupt Imperial shield harmonics, slicing through the dreadnought's defenses at precisely calculated vectors. The Star Hunter shuddered violently as secondary explosions cascaded through its forward sections. Warning klaxons blared across all decks as emergency bulkheads slammed shut, containing the damage. Main cannon power coupling destabilized, reported the engineering officer, his voice tight with strain. Attempting to vent excess energy. Shield generators 1 through 4 offline. Rex gripped the command rail, his knuckles white. Impossible! Lieutenant Kale's voice was measured but urgent. Captain, I strongly recommend we withdraw to a defensive position. We need time to assess the damage and... No! Rex slammed his fist down on the console. The Empire does not retreat before inferiors. Target their lunar base with secondary weapons and fire. The remaining operational weapons of the Star Hunter blazed to life, sending destructive energy toward Earth's moon. But the humans had anticipated this move as well. Concealed deflector arrays activated, redirecting much of the Imperial barrage into space, while hardened bunkers absorbed the rest. The battle had reached a stalemate, a situation Captain Rex had never encountered in his long career of conquest. In Earth's command center, Admiral Morgan received the damage reports with mixed emotions. They had bloodied the Imperial dreadnought. Yes, but at significant cost. Dozens of Earth fighters destroyed, hundreds of brave pilots lost. And this was only one Imperial vessel. if the Empire sent its full might. "Admiral," her communications officer called out. "We're receiving a direct transmission from the Imperial ship. It's addressed specifically to you." Morgan raised an eyebrow. "To me? How do they know who I am?" "Unknown, ma'am. But the signal is using our highest encryption protocol, the one we reverse-engineered from their systems." After a moment's hesitation, Morgan nodded. "Put it through to my private channel." The display before her flickered, then resolved into the stern face of Captain Rex. Even through the screen, his imperious bearing was evident. "You must be the commander of this unexpectedly spirited resistance," he said, his tone a mixture of irritation and reluctant respect. "Admiral Kara Morgan, Earth Defense Fleet," she replied evenly. "I'd say I'm pleased to meet you, but that would be a lie." A humorless smile flickered across Rex's face. "Admiral Morgan, your tactics are unorthodox. Your technology, borrowed. Yet you've managed what few have ever accomplished, forcing an Imperial dreadnought to reconsider its approach." "We're just getting started, Captain. Earth will not submit." "So I see." Rex studied her for a moment. "You've clearly been preparing for this encounter for some time. How did you know we were coming?" Morgan's expression remained neutral. "Let's just say your probes aren't as stealthy as you believe. We've been studying you for decades." "Interesting." Rex leaned forward slightly. "Perhaps we've underestimated your species. A rare miscalculation. One that will cost you dearly if you continue this attack," Morgan warned. Before Rex could respond, an alarm sounded on his end of the communication. He glanced away, listening to an off-screen report, his expression darkening. "It seems we must continue this conversation another time, Admiral," he said, returning his attention to her. "2 of my battle cruisers have just arrived in your system. The Empire's response to resistance is always proportional." The transmission cut off, leaving Morgan staring at a blank screen. She wasted no time in returning to the command center's main tactical display. "Status of our orbital defenses?" she demanded. "All platforms at maximum readiness," her executive officer reported. "The asteroid belt squadrons are moving to intercept the new Imperial vessels." Morgan nodded grimly. "Alert Dr. Cho. We're implementing Contingency Omega." As the 2 Imperial battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, they were met not by scattered resistance, but by thousands of Earth vessels, a vast armada that had remained hidden until this moment, concealed in the shadow of planets, moons, and asteroids. Humanity had pooled its resources, united its technology, and prepared for this day with a single-mindedness that would have impressed even the most dedicated Imperial strategist. Captain Rex watched from the damaged bridge of the Star Hunter as his reinforcements encountered the full might of Earth's defense forces. The battlecruisers were formidable, each nearly half the size of his dreadnought, but they faced an enemy that had studied Imperial tactics for years and developed specific countermeasures. Sir," Lieutenant Kale reported. "The Earth forces are employing gravitational slingshot maneuvers around their outer planets to accelerate beyond our targeting capabilities. They're using the gas giant's magnetic field to mask their approach vectors." Rex's jaw tightened. "Contact the battlecruisers. Order them to maintain formation and await further instructions." But before the communication could be sent, a massive energy surge erupted from Jupiter's vicinity. Dozens of hidden Earth fortresses, disguised as orbital research stations, unleashed a coordinated barrage against the Imperial reinforcements. The unexpected attack caught the battlecruisers with their shields configured for frontal assault, leaving their flanks vulnerable. "Multiple direct hits on both cruisers," Kale announced, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. "They're reporting significant damage to propulsion and weapon systems." Rex's expression hardened. This was becoming more than an unexpected resistance. It was developing into a humiliation for the Empire, and for him personally. "Prepare all operational weapons," he ordered. Target the Earth's Defense Fleet flagship. We will decapitate their command structure. The Star Hunter's damaged but still formidable arsenal swiveled toward Admiral Morgan's command vessel, the Valiant, a sleek, purpose-built warship that represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. Sensors locked on, power built in the remaining weapon batteries, and... "Sir, incoming vessels from Sector 7, the tactical officer shouted. From behind Earth's moon, a reserve force of human fighters emerged, executing a perfect ambush maneuver. They streaked toward the Star Hunter's vulnerable rear sections, where the shields had been weakened during the earlier attack. Rex barely had time to order evasive action before the Earth fighters struck. Their weapons, modified versions of Imperial technology, penetrated the Dreadnought's compromised defenses, targeting critical systems with surgical precision. Explosions rocked the massive vessel. Control panels sparked and failed across the bridge. Emergency lighting flickered on as primary power fluctuated. "Shields down to 28%, reported the damage control officer. Main cannon offline. Multiple hull breaches on decks 30 through 47. Rex stumbled as another impact shook the ship, catching himself against his command console. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead where he'd struck a protruding panel. For the first time, the immaculate Imperial captain looked disheveled, his perfect uniform torn and stained. "Status of the battlecruisers?" he demanded. Lieutenant Kale's voice was grim. "The Dominion has lost main propulsion. The Sovereignty reports critical damage to its reactor containment systems. They're implementing emergency protocols." Rex stared at the tactical display, watching as Earth forces continued their relentless assault. These humans had done the unthinkable. They had bloodied the nose of the Imperial fleet. Across the battlefield, aboard the Valiant, Admiral Morgan directed Earth's forces with calm precision. The years of planning, the countless simulations, the reverse engineering of alien technology, all culminating in this moment of truth. "Squadron leaders report Imperial vessels showing significant damage," her tactical officer announced. "Their formation is breaking down." Morgan nodded, allowing herself the briefest moment of satisfaction before refocusing. "Maintain pressure on all fronts. Don't give them time to regroup or repair." "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving multiple distress signals from civilian orbital facilities. The battle has spread too close to populated areas." Morgan's expression tightened. This was the scenario she had feared most. Imperial forces bringing the fight too close to Earth itself, where civilian casualties would be inevitable. "Order defense squadrons to draw Imperial fire away from the civilian stations," she commanded. "Prioritize protection over offensive operations." As Earth fighters adjusted their tactics, creating a protective screen between the battle and civilian infrastructure, the Star Hunter seized the opportunity to regroup. Captain Rex, despite his wounds and damaged pride, recognized the strategic shift. "They're protecting their non-combatants," he observed, a note of curiosity in his voice. "Sacrificing tactical advantage." Lieutenant Kale nodded. "It appears to be a cultural priority, sir. Their defensive formations are most concentrated near civilian populations." Rex studied the tactical display, his mind racing through scenarios. "Interesting. They value their people above military objectives." A calculating look crossed his face. "We can use that." "Sir?" Kale questioned. "Target their civilian orbital platforms," Rex ordered. "Not to destroy, just enough firepower to threaten. Let's see how far they'll go to protect their people." The Star Hunter's remaining operational weapons pivoted toward Earth space stations, powering up for a barrage that would devastate the lightly defended structures. Morgan's sensor operators detected the energy buildup immediately. "Admiral, the Imperial Dreadnought is targeting Alpha and Gamma stations. Energy signatures indicate weapons lock." The blood drained from Morgan's face. Alpha and Gamma stations house thousands of civilians, researchers, engineers, and their families. If those stations were destroyed, all available interceptors to defensive positions, she ordered. Prepare to receive fire. Earth fighters broke from their attack patterns, rushing to form a living shield between the Imperial warship and the vulnerable space stations. It was a desperate move, sacrificing military assets to protect civilian lives. And it was exactly what Captain Rex had anticipated. Redirect fire to Sector 12, he commanded. Full power to remaining forward batteries. The Star Hunter's weapons swiveled away from the civilian stations at the last moment, instead unleashing their destructive energy toward the hastily repositioned Earth fighters and, beyond them, the Valiant itself. The barrage caught Morgan's flagship with its defensive screen depleted. Having diverted power to its engines for the emergency maneuver, energy beams sliced through the Valiant's outer hull, penetrating deep into its vital systems. The command deck shuddered violently. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Support beams crashed down from the ceiling. Through the chaos, Morgan fought to maintain control, shouting orders that were barely audible above the cacophony of damage alarms. Reroute power to emergency systems. Get those fires under control. Her tactical officer lay slumped over his station, blood streaming from a head wound. The communications array had been completely destroyed. Through the viewport, Morgan could see pieces of her ship's hull drifting away into the void. Admiral, her executive officer gasped, clutching a wounded arm. Engineering reports critical damage to the reactor containment system. We need to evacuate. Morgan shook her head, struggling to her feet amidst the destruction. Not yet. We still have weapons. We still have fight left in us. Across the battlefield, the Star Hunter hadn't escaped unscathed. The maneuver had exposed its weakened starboard flank to Earth's Jupiter-based fortresses, which seized the opportunity to launch a concentrated attack. Fresh explosions blossomed along the Imperial Dreadnought's massive hull as armor plating buckled and atmosphere vented into space. Captain Rex gripped his command rail, ignoring the pain from his injuries as he assessed the situation. Both sides were battered, bloodied, fighting with diminishing resources and mounting casualties. It was no longer a conquest. It had become a war of attrition. Status of our hyperspace engines, he demanded. Operational at 63% capacity, came the reply. But navigational systems are compromised. A jump would be imprecise. Rex considered his options, a rarity for an Imperial officer accustomed to overwhelming force and swift victory. Retreat was unthinkable, yet continuing the battle with severely damaged vessels seemed equally foolish. Sir, Lieutenant Cale said quietly, approaching his commander. I've been analyzing the human attack patterns. They had multiple opportunities to target our bridge directly, but chose not to. Their tactics appear to prioritize disabling over destruction. Rex raised an eyebrow. Your point, Lieutenant? Perhaps there is room for dialogue. Sir, the Empire's standard protocol when encountering unexpected resistance is to— I know the protocols, Rex interrupted sharply. Then, more thoughtfully, you may have a point. This has ceased to be a standard conquest operation. After a moment's consideration, he straightened his tattered uniform as best he could and turned to his communications officer. Establish a direct link to the Earth flagship. I wish to speak with Admiral Morgan again. Aboard the crippled Valiant. Morgan was helping evacuate injured crew members when the communication request came through on the only functioning console. The Imperial commander is requesting to speak with you directly, reported the junior officer manning the station. Channel is secure. Morgan hesitated, then nodded grimly. Put him through. The screen flickered to life, revealing Captain Rex's face, now marked with cuts and bruises, his formerly immaculate appearance in disarray. Yet his bearing remained proud, his eyes sharp with intelligence. Admiral Morgan, he began, his voice steady despite the chaos visible behind him. It appears we find ourselves at an impasse. Morgan's laugh was short and humorless. That's one way to put it, Captain. You came to conquer. We refused to be conquered. Now we both have ships falling apart around us. Indeed. Rex's expression was unreadable. Your species has demonstrated unexpected capabilities and resolve. We tend to do that when our home is threatened. So I see. Rex seemed to be choosing his words carefully. I propose a temporary cessation of hostilities to assess damage and casualties. Morgan's eyes narrowed with suspicion. A ceasefire? So you can bring in reinforcements? If I wished for reinforcements, Admiral, I would simply have to send a hyperspace transmission to Nova Imperia. The Emperor would dispatch a battle fleet that would darken your skies. Rex's tone remained even, factual rather than threatening. But I suspect such an escalation would benefit neither of us at this juncture. Before Morgan could respond, her executive officer approached, speaking in a hushed voice. Admiral, Dr. Cho reports that our remaining operational vessels are down to less than 30% combat effectiveness. We can't sustain this battle much longer. Morgan nodded almost imperceptibly, then returned her attention to Rex. Very well, Captain. A 24-hour ceasefire. But be warned, any movement toward Earth or our civilian facilities will be met with immediate resumption of hostilities. Understood. Rex inclined his head slightly. We will maintain our current position. I suggest we use this time productively. Admiral. The communication ended, leaving both commanders to survey the damage to their respective forces. The space around Earth had been transformed into a graveyard of broken vessels, Imperial and human alike. Debris fields posed navigation hazards throughout the orbital planes, while rescue ships darted between wrecks, searching for survivors. In the Valiant's Emergency Command Center, established after the main bridge was deemed structurally unsound, Admiral Morgan received damage reports with growing concern. Earth's defense fleet had fought valiantly, but the cost had been staggering. Thousands dead, dozens of vessels beyond repair, and critical defensive systems offline. Dr. Cho is requesting to speak with you, her aide reported. She says it's urgent. Morgan nodded wearily. Put her through. The scientist's face appeared on the screen, her normally composed features tense with excitement. Admiral, we've managed to partially decrypt their tactical databanks. There's something you need to see immediately. Go ahead, Doctor. The Empire isn't here just for conquest, Cho explained, forwarding data to Morgan's screen. According to their internal communications, they're expanding aggressively due to an external threat, something they call the Void Swarm, ancient entities at the galaxy's rim that consume entire star systems. Morgan frowned, studying the translated Imperial reports. Are you saying they're running from something? Not running, exactly. Consolidating. Building buffer zones. Earth is strategically located at the junction of several spiral arms, a natural defensive position. This put the conflict in an entirely new light. Not simply conquest for conquest's sake, but a desperate race to secure assets against an even greater threat. There's more, Dr. Cho continued. We've analyzed their weapons and shield technology thoroughly now. Their designs are inefficient, powerful, yes, but wasteful. Our adaptations actually improve on their base technology in several key areas. Morgan leaned forward, intrigued despite her exhaustion. You're saying we could teach them something? Precisely. Their empire has grown complacent. They've relied on overwhelming force for so long that innovation has stagnated. Our reverse-engineered systems demonstrate improvements they might find valuable. A plan began to form in Morgan's mind. A dangerous, possibly foolish plan, but one that might just save Earth from destruction. Aboard the Star Hunter, Captain Rex received his own concerning reports. The damage to his vessel was severe, far beyond what a simple, primitive species should have been able to inflict. Moreover, his intelligence officers had made a disturbing discovery. The humans have been deliberately targeting our non-essential systems, Lieutenant Kale explained, displaying analysis on his datapad. They could have inflicted far more damage had they concentrated fire on our reactor cores or bridge sections. Rex's brow furrowed. They were testing us, learning our vulnerabilities without forcing us into a corner. Yes, sir. And there's more. Kale hesitated. Our long-range sensors have detected energy signatures consistent with void activity in Sector 187. They're spreading faster than our models predicted. This news sent a chill through Rex that had nothing to do with his injuries. The Void Swarm, the ancient, implacable enemy that had driven the Empire's expansion for centuries, if they were accelerating their advance. Sir, Kale said quietly, given this development, perhaps we should reconsider our approach to Earth. The humans have demonstrated significant technical aptitude and tactical creativity, qualities that might be valuable against the Void. Rex stared out the viewport at the blue-green planet below. His mission had been clear: conquer Earth, integrate its resources into the Empire, and move on to the next target. Simple, straightforward, the way the Empire had operated for millennia. But nothing about this encounter had been simple or straightforward. After a long moment, he turned to his communications officer. Contact Admiral Morgan. Request a face-to-face meeting. The officer's surprise was evident. Sir? A personal meeting with the Earth Commander? Yes. On neutral ground. The damaged space station at coordinates 227 Mark IV. It's equidistant between our current positions. As preparations were made, Rex retreated to his private quarters to clean his wounds and don a fresh uniform. The face that greeted him in the mirror was changed, not just by the physical injuries, but by something deeper. For the first time in his long career, certainty had been replaced by doubt, superiority by respect. Hours later, in the abandoned habitation ring of a battle-scarred orbital platform, two commanders faced each other without the buffer of view screens or the distance of space. Admiral Morgan had arrived with a small security detail and Dr. Cho, whose analytical mind might prove valuable in the negotiations to come. Captain Rex was accompanied by Lieutenant Kale and his chief science officer, their expressions guarded, but not overtly hostile. Admiral Morgan, Rex began, executing a formal imperial salute, a gesture typically reserved for equals. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Morgan nodded stiffly. Let's be clear, Captain. This ceasefire is temporary. Earth will never submit to imperial rule. I understand your position. Rex clasped his hands behind his back, assuming a parade rest stance. But perhaps there is a third option beyond conquest or continued conflict. He gestured to his science officer, who activated a holographic display showing a portion of the galaxy. Red markers spread like a disease across several sectors, encroaching steadily toward a blue area representing Imperial territory. This is the Void Swarm, Rex explained. An ancient enemy that consumes all in its path. Organic life, technology, even the fabric of space-time itself. The Empire has been fighting them for centuries, gradually losing ground despite our technological superiority. Morgan studied the display, her expression skeptical but attentive. And this relates to Earth how, exactly? Your system occupies a strategically valuable position, Rex continued. But more importantly, your people have demonstrated adaptability, creativity, qualities the Empire has perhaps neglected in favor of raw power and standardization. Dr. Cho stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. Your shield harmonics follow predictable patterns. We were able to identify and exploit them after studying just one damaged probe. Your weapons are powerful but inefficient. Your tactical doctrines rigid. The Imperial science officer bristled, but Rex raised a hand to forestall his objection. Continue, Doctor. We've improved upon your baseline technology, Cho stated bluntly. Our modular fighters can reconfigure their attack profiles mid-battle. Our saber beams use 40% less energy than your equivalent weapons, while maintaining 90% of the impact force. Rex's eyes narrowed with interest, rather than anger. You believe your innovations could be effective against the Void? We don't know, Morgan interjected. But we're certainly not going to hand over our technological advances to an empire that tried to conquer us hours ago. What if, Rex said carefully, I proposed an alliance rather than subjugation? The room fell silent. Such a suggestion from an Imperial officer was unprecedented, a deviation from thousands of years of expansion doctrine. Lieutenant Kale cleared his throat. Captain, Imperial protocol clearly states— I am aware of protocol, Lieutenant, Rex interrupted. I am also aware that protocol has not prepared us for the acceleration of the Void Swarm's advance. We need new approaches, new technologies, new allies. He turned back to Morgan. The Empire can offer you access to 1,000 worlds, hyperspace technology, antimatter power generation. In exchange, we ask for your defensive innovations and your assistance against a threat that will eventually reach Earth, whether you stand with us or not. Morgan and Dr. Cho exchanged glances. The proposal was tempting. Access to the stars, to technologies beyond human development, to resources beyond imagination. But trust would not come easily after such an inauspicious first contact. How do we know this isn't a ploy? Morgan challenged. Get us to lower our defenses, then strike? Rex's expression was solemn. You don't. Just as I have no guarantee that sharing Imperial technology won't eventually be used against us. Trust must begin somewhere. Admiral. After a tense silence, Dr. Cho spoke up. We could start with a limited exchange, a joint project to demonstrate good faith on both sides. Morgan considered this, then nodded slowly. A joint defense platform, in Earth orbit, staffed by both Imperial and Earth personnel, using combined technologies. Acceptable, Rex agreed. And a shared database on Void Swarm encounters and effective countermeasures. The negotiations continued for hours, gradually expanding from tactical cooperation to broader alliance frameworks. Neither side fully trusted the other, yet both recognized the practical benefits of collaboration over conflict. 3 Earth days later, the first formal treaty between humanity and the Galactic Empire was signed aboard a newly constructed platform in Earth orbit. The Unity's Dawn, a fitting name for the hybrid vessel that incorporated both Imperial and Earth design elements. Its command deck was larger than that of the Valiant, but smaller than the Star Hunter's bridge, with stations configured for both human and Imperial crew members. Admiral Morgan stood at the viewport, watching as shuttles ferried personnel and equipment between Earth and the Imperial vessels. Beside her, Captain Rex observed the same activity with an expression that might almost be called optimistic. Your Dr. Cho's shield modifications have already been implemented on 2 of our battlecruisers, Rex remarked. Initial tests show a 30% improvement in energy efficiency. Morgan nodded. And your hyperspace calculations have reduced our projected interstellar travel development timeline by at least 50 years. They fell silent, contemplating the unexpected turn of events. What had begun as an invasion had transformed into the most significant technological and cultural exchange in human history. The Emperor was surprised by my report, Rex admitted. Alliance rather than conquest is not the Imperial way, but the data on the Void Swarm's acceleration was compelling enough to override tradition. My governments were equally skeptical, Morgan replied. Some still are. But the evidence your science team provided about the Void threat convinced enough world leaders to proceed. Lieutenant Kale approached, presenting a datapad to Rex. The final crew rotations, Captain. Joint teams as specified in the Starlight Accord. Rex reviewed the information, then passed the datapad to Morgan. Your approval, Admiral? She scanned the document, noting the careful integration of Earth and Imperial personnel throughout the ship's departments. Approved. When can the Unity's Dawn be ready for its first patrol? Within 48 hours, Kale replied. Engineering reports all systems nominal. As the lieutenant departed, Morgan turned back to the viewport. The Earth hung below them, a blue-green jewel against the black velvet of space. For decades, she had prepared to defend that precious world against alien threats. Never had she imagined she would instead be forging an alliance with those same aliens. Your species is full of contradictions, Admiral, Rex observed, following her gaze. You fight with remarkable ferocity, yet you risked tactical advantage to protect non-combatants. You've developed weapons that could have destroyed my ship, yet you chose to disable rather than annihilate. Morgan's lips quirked in a half-smile. We contain multitudes, Captain. It's what makes us human. It may also be what saves us all from the void, Rex replied, a new respect evident in his tone. The final ceremonies were conducted with both imperial precision and human warmth. On the observation deck of the Unity's Dawn, officers from both civilizations gathered to witness the formal commissioning of the joint vessel. Admiral Morgan and Captain Rex stood side by side before a podium bearing both Earth's unified emblem and the imperial crest. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning. Morgan addressed the assembled crew. We came together in conflict, but stand now as allies against a greater threat. The stars have always called to humanity. Now we answer that call alongside new friends. Rex stepped forward, his voice carrying across the silent deck. The Empire has stood for order and stability across 1,000 worlds. Today, we recognize that stability is strengthened, not weakened, by diversity of thought and approach. The Starlight Accord between our peoples represents a new chapter in Imperial history. Together, they pressed their palms against the activation panel. The Unity's Dawn systems hummed to life, its hybrid power core, combining Imperial antimatter technology with Earth's innovative containment methods, glowing with a steady blue light. As the ceremonial duties concluded, the combined crew dispersed to their stations. Imperial and human officers working side by side at consoles designed to accommodate both species' preferences. The bridge buzzed with multiple languages, translation matrices ensuring seamless communication. Morgan found herself at the main viewport once more, gazing out at the stars. Beyond Earth's solar system lay the vast expanse of the galaxy, filled with wonders and dangers in equal measure. The Void Swarm lurked at the edges of known space, a threat greater than humanity had ever faced. Yet, for the first time, she felt a sense of genuine hope. The Empire's resources combined with Earth's innovation, Imperial discipline enhanced by human creativity. Perhaps together, they stood a chance against the encroaching darkness. Captain Rex joined her at the viewport. His posture relaxed in a way she hadn't seen before. Your pilots have been training our fighter squadrons in those gravitational slingshot maneuvers. Most impressive. And your engineers have revolutionized our power generation systems, Morgan acknowledged. The exchange benefits us both. Rex nodded, then hesitated before speaking again. I've served the Empire for over 40 standard years. Admiral, in all that time, I never questioned our methods. Conquest followed by integration. It seemed the natural order of things. And now, Morgan prompted when he fell silent. Now I wonder what other opportunities we've missed. How many species might have offered unique perspectives, valuable innovations, had we approached them as potential allies, rather than subjects? Morgan considered this. It's never too late to change course, Captain. Perhaps not. Rex turned his gaze toward the stars. The Unity's Dawn will patrol the outer reaches of your system initially, a symbolic gesture, but an important one. The first combined Imperial human force. The first of many, I hope, Morgan said. Indeed. Rex extended his hand, a human gesture he had studied in preparation for the alliance. To new beginnings, Admiral Morgan. She clasped his hand firmly. To new beginnings, Captain Rex. As they stood there, an Imperial officer and a human admiral united in purpose. The Unity's dawn began its maiden voyage. Its powerful engines glowed as it moved away from Earth orbit, heading toward the outer planets on its inaugural patrol. On its hull, the combined emblems of Earth and Empire gleamed in the starlight, a symbol of unexpected alliance, of strength found in diversity, of hope against the encroaching void. The vessel grew smaller against the backdrop of stars, but its significance only expanded. A bridge between worlds, a testament to the adaptability of both civilizations, a promise that together they might face whatever darkness awaited at the galaxy's edge. And as Earth receded behind them, both Admiral Morgan and Captain Rex knew that this was merely the beginning of a greater journey, one that would carry both their peoples into an uncertain but shared future among the stars.